What happens when a promise of a new life becomes a death sentence? That was the question that hung in the cold Montana wind the moment Sophia May Thompson stepped off the train. She had traveled 2,000 miles to escape a ruined name and a life that had caged her. She was not chasing romance, she was chasing survival. But the land she had crossed an entire country for was about to test her in ways she never imagined. Her journey had stripped her down to her bones. 6 weeks on the rails, surrounded by strangers and restless nights, had changed her. She had shed Boston, the damp air, the rigid rules, the whispers that had destroyed her reputation. Out here, the world was bigger, wilder, and far less forgiving. She had come seeking Redemption Gulch, Montana territory, a place whose very name sounded like a last hope. Her groom-to-be, Elias Thorne, had written her letters that were short and practical. No sweet words, no empty promises, only the truth. 300 acres of land, cattle, and the offer of a partnership. He would give a home and safety. She would give companionship and work. A simple bargain. A lifeline for a woman the world had turned its back on. The train hissed and settled. The station was almost nothing. A wooden platform, a small shack, a peeling sign that read, Redemption Gulch, population 142. The wind carried the smell of pine and dust. It felt empty, wide, and cold. "You, the mail order for Thorne?" the station master asked kindly as he pushed her trunk onto the platform. "I am," she said, gripping her reticule. "Is Mr. Thorne here?" Jedediah, the station master, cast a long look toward the dusty street. He was supposed to be. Elias ain't one to be late. He scratched his jaw. "Tell you what, my boy is taking a supply wagon up that way. He can take you to the ranch." A knot formed in her stomach. It was a strange start to a new life, but she nodded. She had nowhere else to go. Soon she found herself perched on a rattling wagon, moving through a valley framed by pine-covered hills and a creek sparkling under the sun. When the wagon finally rumbled into view of the Thorne Ranch, Sophia's heart lifted for a moment. The cabin was small, but sturdy. Smoke curled from the chimney. It looked peaceful. But as they drew closer, she noticed things that felt wrong. A broken fence rail, an empty water trough, the front door standing half open, moving in the wind like a warning. "You want I should stay?" the boy asked, nervous. "No, thank you," she said, though her voice shook. "I'm sure everything is fine." She watched the wagon leave and disappear into a cloud of dust, leaving her in silence so deep she could hear her heartbeat. "Mr. Thorne?" she called, stepping onto the porch. "Elias? It is Sophia Thompson." No answer. She pushed the door open. The cabin was dim and smelled of stale whiskey and something metallic. A fire burned low in the hearth. A table, 2 chairs, shelves with books. Simple but tidy. Yet everything felt disturbed. Then she heard it, a low, weak groan from the back room. Her heart pounded. Fear washed through her, but she moved toward the sound. Her instincts, the ones trained from years as a governess caring for sick children, overpowered her dread. She pushed open the bedroom door. The smell of blood hit her first. Then she saw him. Elias Thorne lay on the bed, tangled in a sweat-soaked quilt. His hair was plastered to his forehead. His beard was matted with sweat and dried blood. His skin was pale and slick. His chest lifted in shallow, broken breaths. The quilt around his stomach was soaked through with a deep, rusty stain. Sophia rushed to him. She peeled the quilt back and found a crude, blood-soaked bandage wrapped around his side. Blood seeped from its edges in slow, bright rivulets. This was no sickness. This was violence. "Mr. Thorne," she said, louder this time. "Elias, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered. For a moment, she saw his eyes, deep, stormy blue, filled with pain and confusion. "Water," he rasped. She found a dipper at the door and helped him drink. He swallowed greedily, weak and desperate. "Who?" he whispered. "It's Sophia Thompson," she said. "Your bride." A flicker of something, shock, disbelief, maybe sorrow, crossed his face. His eyes rolled back. He fell into unconsciousness. Sophia stood frozen, staring at the dying man she had traveled across the country to marry. She could run. She could walk back to town. She could leave this dangerous, isolated ranch and return to the life she hated. Or she could stay. Her gaze dropped to his hands, calloused, strong, marked by hard work. His face, in unconscious rest, looked younger, almost gentle. Someone had tried to kill this man. Someone wanted him gone. She looked at her own hands, soft, steady, trained to care and to heal. Fear surged inside her, but something stronger rose with it. Resolve. She had not come this far to turn back at the first trial. She had come for a new beginning. Maybe that beginning was here, in this dark cabin with a dying stranger whose fate had somehow fallen into her hands. "All right, Mr. Thorne," she whispered. "You hold on. You are not dying today." With shaking hands but a steady heart, Sophia rolled up her sleeves and began the impossible task of saving her future husband. She searched the cabin, found water, herbs, cloth, anything she could use. She cleaned the wound with boiled water, ignoring the way Elias groaned and twisted. She packed it with yarrow and bound it tight, with linen she tore from her own clothes. She bathed his burning forehead, forced small sips of willow bark tea between his lips, and prayed for morning. As night deepened, his fever rose. He muttered in delirium, whispered about cattle, fences, and one name he repeated in a fearful growl: Blackwood, Blackwood, the creek. The name chilled her. This was no accident. This was a battle. By dawn, after hours of shaking, sweating, and gasping, Elias finally fell into a healing sleep. Sophia sat in a chair beside his bed, her body trembling with exhaustion. When the sun broke over the valley, she let out a sob of relief. He was alive. Alive because she had stayed. She had come seeking a place to belong. Instead, she had found a man whose enemies wanted him dead, and whose life was now bound to hers in a way neither of them could yet understand. The sun climbed over the Montana hills as Elias Thorne woke for the first time with a clear mind. His breath was steady, his fever was gone, and the first thing he saw was Sophia May Thompson sitting beside him, mending one of his shirts with careful, steady hands. For a moment he thought he was dreaming. No woman had ever sat beside his bed like that. No one had waited through a night for him. No one had fought for him. "You're the woman from the train," he said weakly. "Sophia Thompson," she answered with a soft, tired smile. "Yes." He tried to sit up, and pain shot through his side. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder, stopping him. "Easy, you've been very close to death. Your wound was infected. You lost a great deal of blood." He looked at the bandage she had tied, clean and firm. Then he looked at her, intelligent eyes, calm presence, clothes stained from tending him. "You saved me," he murmured. "You needed help," she replied simply. He stared at her, as if trying to understand how a stranger, a woman who owed him nothing but a contract, had fought all night for his life. Through the next days, Elias healed. Slowly, stubbornly, like a man who refused to be beaten. Sophia kept the cabin clean, cooked simple meals, changed his bandages, and walked to the creek for water. She milked the cow and tended the fire. She worked with quiet purpose, turning the lonely ranch into something living again. Elias watched her more than he spoke. She noticed the intelligence in his careful gaze, the protectiveness in the way he scanned the yard from the window, the pain he tried to hide when he moved wrong. But he also watched her with something new, respect, and something else he wasn't ready to name. On the third day, trouble arrived. Two rough-looking men rode into the yard. Both carried pistols. One, a large man with a cruel smirk, hammered on the door. "Thorne, we know you're in there." Sophia froze. Elias tried to rise, but the pain in his side forced him back down. "Don't answer it," he growled. "That's Blackwood's men." Sophia's heart raced, but she moved toward the door. Elias tried to stop her, but he was too weak. She cracked the door open, just enough to stand in their way. "Mr. Thorne is unwell," she said firmly. "State your business." Quote. One man sneered. "Who are you?" "I am Mrs. Thorne. she said without hesitation, the lie steady on her tongue. "And I won't let you disturb my husband." The man laughed harshly. "Mrs. Thorne, huh? Didn't know Elias got himself a wife." He stepped forward to push past her. Before Sophia could react, Elias's voice thundered from the bedroom, filled with sudden, savage strength. "You lay one hand on her, Dooley, and I'll kill you. I swear it." The man froze. He knew Elias Thorne's reputation. Even half dead, he wasn't someone to test. "This ain't over," Dooley spat. Then he and the other man rode off. Sophia shut the door and leaned against it, shaking. When she returned to the bedroom, Elias sat upright, face pale but eyes burning. "He didn't touch you?" he demanded. "No," she said softly. "I'm all right." Something changed in his gaze, something deep and fierce. "You protected me," she whispered. "And you stood between me and danger," he answered. From that moment, the unspoken line between them shifted. Elias recovered enough to walk. Sophia found herself working beside him, feeding the animals, sweeping the porch, boiling water for dressings. They moved through the cabin like two halves of the same life, learning each other without meaning to. One afternoon, as Sophia helped him sit up, their hands brushed. A spark, warm and sharp, shot through both of them. She pulled her hand back quickly. Elias didn't look away. "Why did you stay?" he asked quietly. Sophia hesitated. "It was the practical thing to do. You were hurt. Another woman would have run." She met his gaze. "I am not another woman, Mr. Thorne." "It's Elias," he said, and the way he said his name felt like an invitation to something deeper. That night, she heard him muttering in his sleep. Dreams of fences, cattle, a fight. One name kept breaking through his fevered whispers. Blackwood. Blackwood. The creek. Sophia didn't understand everything, but she understood one thing clearly. Someone had wanted Elias dead, and they would be back. The next morning, Elias began teaching her to shoot. "You need to be able to defend yourself," he said. "I can't keep you safe alone." She lifted the rifle awkwardly. "I can't do this," she whispered after the recoil slammed into her shoulder. Elias stepped behind her, close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath on her neck. His large hand guided hers on the stock. "Yes, you can," he said softly. "Don't fight the gun, steady your breath, squeeze, don't pull." Together they aimed. Together they fired. The tin can on the fence line flipped in the air. Sophia gasped in surprise. Elias smiled. A slow, rare smile that warmed her to her toes. From that day on, they were no longer strangers tied by a contract. They were partners, bound by danger, hardship, and something growing quietly between them. But danger moved closer every day. One night a storm swept through the valley. Thunder cracked. Lightning split the sky. Rain came down in sheets. The cattle spooked. "The south fence must be down," Elias shouted. He tried to saddle his horse, but pain twisted through him. Sophia grabbed his arm. "You can't go alone." "This is my ranch," he snapped. "It's our ranch," she replied, her voice strong. "And I'm coming with you." For a long moment he stared at her through the storm, lightning flashing across her determined face, and realized he couldn't stop her any more than he could stop the weather. They rode out together, side by side. In the chaos of rain and fear, they turned the herd back from the cliffs. When the Sophia's horse stumbled near a fallen tree and she nearly fell, Elias was there instantly, grabbing her reins, steadying her. "Stay close," he shouted. "I am," she yelled back. Hours later, soaked and exhausted, they returned to the cabin. Sophia shivered as she stripped off her wet coat. Elias built the fire high. They sat together on the rug, wrapped in blankets, steam rising from their clothes. "You saved me out there," Elias said, staring into the fire. "And you saved me," she whispered. He turned to her. The firelight softened his bruised face. "Sophia, I keep trying to put you somewhere safe. But your place is right beside me." His hand lifted, touching her cheek gently. Her breath caught. "I've never known anyone like you," he said. The space between them closed like a door in the wind. He leaned in. She leaned toward him. Their lips met in a fierce, burning kiss. A kiss of gratitude. A kiss born from fear, from survival, from something neither of them had planned. A kiss that changed everything. The storm outside faded. But inside the cabin, another storm had begun, one that bound Sophia and Elias together in a way that neither could walk away from now. The kiss by the fire changed everything. It wasn't gentle or shy. It was powerful, real, and full of everything they had been holding back. After that night, Sophia and Elias moved through their days with a new kind of awareness. Every look carried weight. Every touch felt charged. They weren't just partners anymore. They weren't strangers bound by a contract. They were something deeper. Two people tied together by danger, survival, and growing love. But the world outside their little cabin didn't care about their bond. Silas Blackwood's shadow grew longer every day. The creek was dammed again. A section of their pasture burned one night. 3 calves vanished. And the sheriff looked the other way every time. This wasn't misfortune. It was war. "We can't keep fighting him on our own," Sophia said one evening as Elias paced the cabin, his jaw tight. "We need help." "Help from who?" he snapped. "Sheriff Brody? Blackwood owns him. Half this town bows to him." "Not the entire territory," Sophia said firmly. "Judge Morrison passes through Redemption Gulch in a few weeks." Elias slowed. His eyes flickered with something like hope. "A circuit judge, someone Brody can't control." "But it won't matter," Sophia continued, "if it's just your word against Blackwood's. We need proof, or a witness." The room fell quiet. Elias sank into the chair across from her. The memory of his attack washed over him, leaving his face haunted. "There was a witness," he said finally. "Billy Page, one of my hired hands. He saw everything." Sophia leaned closer. "Where is he?" "He ran," Elias said, his voice low, "or Blackwood scared him into running." Quote, "Then we find him," she whispered, "no matter where he went." And so their path was decided. 2 days later, they rode into Redemption Gulch. The town felt different now. When they walked down the street, people looked away quickly, as if afraid to be seen speaking to them. When they asked about Billy Page, they were met with shrugs, nervous lies, and quick excuses. Until Sophia stepped into the mercantile and spoke quietly to Martha Gable, the shopkeeper's wife. With gentle words and a careful lie about being a friend of Billy's mother, she touched a mother's heart. Fear battled compassion in Martha's eyes, and compassion won. "Bear's Jaw," Martha whispered, "a mining camp up in the Garnet Range. He has a cousin there." Sophia squeezed her hand. "Thank you." The Garnet Range was 2 days north. The trail was narrow, wet, and dangerous, but Sophia and Elias rode anyway. They camped under freezing rain, sharing a blanket and warmth. On the second day, Elias's horse slipped on a slick rock, throwing him hard onto the ground. Sophia rushed to him, terror choking her. "Elias!" Quote. He gritted his teeth, pressed a hand to his healing side, and forced himself up. "I'm all right." But she could see the pain. She checked his bandage in the cold wind, her hands trembling. He watched her with a raw softness. "You see?" he murmured. "I need you." And she realized she needed him too, in a way she had never needed anyone. They reached Bear's Jaw the next afternoon. The mining camp was loud, muddy, full of rough men and rougher tempers. After hours of searching, they found Billy Page at a small silver claim. He was thin, shaking, terrified the moment he saw them. "No!" Billy cried, stumbling backward. "Blackwood said he'd kill me!" "He said he'd find me." Sophia knelt in the mud beside him, her voice steady and warm. "Billy, my name is Sophia. I'm Elias's wife. You are living in fear every day." "That's not a life. You can help us stop him." "I can't," Billy sobbed. "He'll kill me." Elias stepped forward, his voice firm but not cruel. "Billy, you watched him nearly kill me. You know the truth. Blackwood took everything from you. Your home, your future, your peace." Billy shook his head. "I'm nobody." "You're not nobody," Sophia said, her voice strong. "You're the one person who can bring justice. You can help save us. You can save yourself." Billy's breath came fast and uneven, but slowly his fear shifted into something else. Resolve. He wiped his face with a dirty sleeve. "All right," he whispered, "I'll testify." With Billy between them, they started the journey back. For the first time in weeks, hope rode with them, but hope was not enough to stop danger. Blackwood's men were waiting. It happened halfway through a narrow canyon. A gunshot cracked through the air. Billy yelped and ducked. Elias pulled his horse around, putting himself between Sophia and the sound. 2 riders blocked the path behind them. 2 more ahead. "We heard you're looking to stir trouble, Thorne," Dooley sneered. "Boss says that ends now." Sophia's heart hammered. Billy shook violently. Elias's voice was steady, steel, wrapped in calm. "Sophia, stay behind me." Quote. But she didn't stay behind him. She reached into the saddlebag and pulled out the pistol Elias had taught her to use. Her hands were steady, her breath slow. She remembered every word he had said. "Steady your shoulders. Become part of the gun. Squeeze, don't pull." She raised her arm. "Let us pass," she said firmly. "Or we fight." Dooley laughed. "You won't fight." Then he reached for his gun. Sophia fired. The bullet struck the dirt inches from his boot. Dooley jerked back in shock. And Elias, seeing his chance, raised his rifle with sharp, practiced precision. "You want a war?" Elias growled. "You get one, but not today." The men hesitated. 4 against 3 should have been easy, but not against a man who had survived their attack, and a woman who stood beside him without fear. After a tense standoff, the men pulled back. "This ain't over," Dooley shouted as they retreated. But for now, it was. The moment they were gone, Elias grabbed Sophia's shoulders, his voice rough with emotion. "You could have been killed," he said. "You risked everything." Quote. "So did you," she replied softly, "and I'm not leaving you to fight alone." He pulled her into his arms, holding her with a fierce, shaking grip. He pressed his forehead against hers. "God help me," he whispered. "I can't lose you." They made it back to Redemption Gulch 3 days later, with Billy ready to testify. Judge Morrison arrived soon after. The hearing was public. The saloon emptied. The streets filled. People came because they had lived in Blackwood's shadow too long. They wanted to see what happened when someone dared to fight back. Billy told everything. How Blackwood had swung the fence post. How Dooley had held a gun on him. How they left Elias for dead. His voice shook, but he did not stop. Blackwood turned red. He shouted. He threatened. But truth carried more weight than rage. Judge Morrison ruled swiftly. Silas Blackwood was arrested and taken out of Redemption Gulch in chains. For the first time in years, the town breathed. Later that evening, as the sun set behind the Montana hills, Elias took Sophia's hands in his. The porch was quiet. The ranch peaceful for the first time since she arrived. "You saved my life twice," he said. "You fought for me. You fought beside me. You changed everything." Sophia's eyes warmed. "We saved each other." Elias dropped to one knee, not out of weakness, but out of devotion. "Sophia May Thompson," he said, voice steady and full of emotion. "I vowed I would never let you go. Now I ask you, will you choose to stay? Not because of a contract. Not because you saved me, but because we belong together." Her vision blurred with tears, but her voice was strong. "Yes, Elias, I will." He rose and kissed her, slow and sure, with the quiet certainty of a man who had finally found home. She melted into him, into the safety, into the promise. In the Montana evening light, with the mountains standing guard and the wind carrying the scent of pine, Sophia realized something she had never believed possible. She had come west, searching for a new life. Instead, she had found a man worth living for. A man who would stand between her and every storm. A man who had vowed never to let her go. And she believed him.